Hello, thank you very much for all turning up. Appreciate it. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Dan Hicks, Napier City Council, and I've been coordinating, controlling what the community volunteers started up here 2.5 weeks ago. So I just want to go through the agenda quickly, and then I'll hand over to the Mayor, Sandra, and then we will work our way through, ending with Hastings District Council, who will speak about some building stuff. So a quick update from me anyway in relation to Napier City Council stuff. The Bayview Hotel, they had a medical centre there that has wound down, so that's today. It closes at, I think it's pretty much closed now, or it closes at 5 p.m. However, the GP practices and the pharmacies, I believe, are offering free services up until the 19th of March. I'm getting a nod from the nurses, so that's good. Doctors, sorry, nurses, I don't know. My bad, sorry, nurse practitioner, right. Yeah, so the Bayview Hotel, essentially, as of 5 p.m. tonight, will be the Bayview Hotel as you knew it before Cyclone Gabrielle. The bar's open.
Hey.
Yeah, there are no more hot meals, no more food donations and that going to the Bayview Hotel. That's all completely wound down as well. We are obviously still here, and we also now, thankfully, have Hastings District Council with us. So they've been with us for a few days now, and it's really good to have Hastings District Council here. It helps us because it just is the conduit. We can connect with them to help out with everyone. You can ask more questions from Hastings District Council at the end. They'll know more about that than me probably. Yeah. The Red Cross are here as well, so the new contingent have arrived from
Kapiti, Hamilton and Plymouth.
Excellent. North Islanders. Good. Sorry that the Cantabrians that were here before. Yeah, so it's good to have Red Cross on board. They are going to spread their staff out amongst the hubs, I guess the community hubs that are around. So they are going to be based at the Linden Estate over the hill, and at the two sites at Poketapu, so north and south over there. Not sure if you're aware, but there's two there because of the bridge. And then also here at Bayview. Red Cross have been really good for us. They offer some mental health stuff, the psychosocial support. They've been doing welfare checks the whole time, and they're also going to help in relation to generators. So I'll ask you, rather than everyone rushing up to me now, at the conclusion of the meeting, if you are aware of someone out anywhere in this community that may need a generator, come and see me after the meeting, and we'll take down those details and see what we can do. Try and sort that out ASAP. The one other thing I needed to cover off is the donations that have been coming in. And I know that the community volunteers that started here mentioned this as well on day 4, I believe. So I just want to reiterate. It's really nice for people to donate stuff like clothing and goods and whatnot. However, we've been inundated with it, and we arrive at work in the morning and we find it all piled up out the front there. And it's actually not helpful because then we're tied up trying to sort that stuff out and go through it and pick through it and whatnot. So what we're going to figure out is, and we're going to deal with the help of the community volunteers as well that started this, with what we can do with all of the donated stuff that we've got here at the moment, where it can be utilised further. So it may go to those in need at the moment, so Wairoa and other areas that actually need the stuff now. So hopefully you all are in agreement with that. That's just the progression, I guess. That's where we're at now. We'd like to give this stuff to the people that are really, really in need at the moment. But by all means, if you are doing any work around your properties and you need protection equipment, so masks, goggles, gloves, come and see us because we have a soiree of equipment for you to keep you safe when you're dealing with the silt and stuff out there when you're cleaning your homes and whatnot. So feel free to pop in, speak to someone at the front. And you might find from here on in, when you go to the front here at Bayview, that you'll be met by Napier City Council or Hastings District Council staff members. They're both going to sit side by side, so it really is an actual collaboration from here on in. That's probably enough from me. You're sick of hearing my voice. So I'm going to pass over to the Mayor, Sandra. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Good afternoon, everyone. And sorry for my lateness, but getting between across at the moment, you can imagine, we all know how difficult it is to be trying to travel between our region. In fact, we had a meeting today with Minister Wood, the Transport Minister, and fundamentally that's the first thing that we want sorted, is being able to have better access between our twin cities across our region. I don't like to put my back to anybody here, but we've got a powerhouse here of everybody. Councillor Curtin, lovely to see you from Regional Council, Power, Unison, and this is about an update on where everything is for you. What is it that you need to know? What is it that you haven't got the information? And first and foremost, can I just acknowledge the terrible 2 weeks, and those who have lost property, have lost loved ones, have lost their sections, and have been in this cyclone and have had the devastation that we've seen across all of our region, but a lot in your area, in our Whirinaki area, Tongoio, Esk, and this area out here has been hugely impacted, as parts of our other rural area that we are looking after, which is 10 isolated communities north of Risington, across 21 pockets of people out at all across Tutera, and those folks are still very isolated and still getting a lot of supplies sent in. Firstly, can I just acknowledge the amazing volunteers, Dana and all your team, and I don't know your names, I'm sorry, but thank you for the amazing work in setting up this wonderful hub here. We are a region and we're united, and Meg Houston couldn't be here this afternoon to this meeting, but I know she's been out here many, many times to see you. We are doing this as a region we're in a national civil defence emergency under NEMA, so it's a government-run response, but it's locally led by you, our people, with all our partners playing a part. And I just want to acknowledge Napier City Council, who had easier access to us to help you get this hub set up right at the beginning. So can I acknowledge Napier City and the team who have helped you in the beginning. And now we've got our team of Hastings District Council set here to make sure that everything and all the information and all of the services are getting access to everything you need. Can I acknowledge Louise? This is the second time this week I've been here, and it's just great to see a community-led response to a problem like safety and security, and to come out yesterday to Eastdale and see the roadblocks set up instantly, and the police picking up on some of those challenges that community were facing about not feeling safe, and those outcomes that have been put into place now is really heartening. So this is very much, we want a regionally led response, not a government down response as we've seen in other crises in New Zealand, like the Christchurch earthquake. This is the biggest natural disaster our region has ever faced, and the scale of it is enormous. And our response, we had our first regional leaders meeting today with the Minister of Finance. Yesterday we met with all our industry leaders to look at what our needs were for us to respond for the next 3 months, but the next 3 years and 10 years onwards. And it's going to be a big job, and it's going to be a lot of leadership by a lot of people. And I know what my next 3 years are going to be, and it's going to be responding to the cyclone. So, we had all sorts of plans in place. We thought we were trucking along very well as a region after COVID, and everyone pulled together through COVID, and now we've got this big challenge of responding and getting everything right after this cyclone. So I just want to thank you for your patience. It has been tough. It has been a hell of a 2 weeks, and a lot of people are still out of their homes and unable to get back. We have to give them some sort of a certainty, some sort of direction quickly, that they know how they're going to respond, and John will talk more about that. The assessments have been completed on all our homes, looking between Hastings, about 680 yellow stickered, Napier about the same. So it'd be probably between about 1,800 across the region of yellow stickered and red stickered homes. The white stickered we're not so worried about. It's weird that the government got white stickers actually, in my view, John, but we know what yellow and what red mean, and we're here to help you understand if you're in that position that you've got one of those stickers attached to your property. So these decisions need to be made efficiently and quickly, but with our community. And that is what we talk to the government today about, is how we can reassure our community whether they bring the builders in, where they want to live, and how we manage that process for them. And just to note, we've learnt from others, and in Nelson after their flood last year, they're still in that place of not knowing what is happening with rebuilding in some of their flooded areas in Nelson. So that's the stuff that we've learned from. We have to do better for us as a region. I'm delighted to think the Whirinaki water supply is on, but Craig will talk more about that. And because out of all of our 7 small communities that we've put our bores in the last 5 years, from Waimarama, Tipahui, all around our district, there's 7 small water supplies we've put in. The only one that was affected was Whirinaki. And so they're grateful that the team have now got that. It was absolutely submerged, and Craig will talk about that, but to have to turn on the tap is a huge relief. So those lifelines of safe drinking water, power, are the urgent things that we need to be looking at in terms of our recovery and how we respond. As I say, we're still in a national emergency, and what that means is that we have NEMA, the National Emergency Management, then we have Civil Defence, our Hawke-based Civil Defence Emergency Management, and we all work together under the Civil Defence Emergency Management. And they've got about 100 people in their team. You watch them working, it's like a war office how they're working at the moment across all the areas to making sure everyone's getting the response they need. Can I acknowledge our Red Cross partners here and all our Lifeline partners here who are helping us get over and get this response most efficiently and effectively as we can to all of you who need these really, really important services. So that's probably enough for me. I'm sure you've got lots of questions that you'd like to ask specifically to you, and the team will be here afterwards if you do want one-on-one. There are forms to hand out if you want one-on-one advice on your properties and your homes. But we are in this together. We are a united region. We are a very prosperous region. We love our home here in Hawke's Bay. We want to build back better. We want to be learning from this experience. Regional Council have just set up a climate change resilience committee, and that's all of us on it. And today in our council we've just signed off on representatives onto that committee. So we know that these events will happen again in the future, and how we can be prepared, how we can make sure that climate change is real, and how we can adapt as a region to climate change. But it's too early for all of that yet. We have to get on with our response, look after our people through this response and recovery time, make sure you've got all your needs you need, and look after you. So now I'll just, who's on the next stand on the agenda? Craig. So Craig is the head of our assets. He's responsible for our water, our roads. We've got 12 of our bridges down, and we've got 18 impacted, Craig, that aren't functioning properly. 18?
A few more.
So I'll leave you to him. I don't want to, it's like, how do we do all of that? And that's our big conversation, is we need the army to help us.
Could you please stay up there so you can answer questions from the group at the end rather than individual?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. So my name's Craig Thew. I'm Hastings District Council's Group Manager of Assets. And just to point to the shared effort, so the first week of this event I live over in Napier, so I couldn't get to Hastings, so I was working for Napier City, helping fight back the floodwaters of the Turai Kuri as it was trying to get into Napier and get their water supply going. We are pleased that we've turned on the water supply for Eskills and Whirinaki. Those in the Bayview settlement, you'll know that you're getting your water directly from Napier City, so what I'm about to say doesn't apply to you. So the supply we've managed to turn back on, we've managed to excavate out and find the old bores, ripped out the pumps that weren't working, replaced it. But we only have one pump, not the two at this point in time. We've today found this other bore and pump, and we'll be testing to see if we can get that up. So the system is in a very early commissioning phase, so that's why we're asking you to conserve water as much as possible, and an indication, if you can use about 30% of what you were using at full rate, and that's because we only have one bore pushing in to refill the reservoirs to create some capacity. And because the system, we're just slowly building the pressure, we're watching it for other damage. We've replaced a couple of kilometres of pipe, but there may be other damage that the flood has caused. The treatment plant we've stood up, we've got the raw water coming out of the bore, it's going through cartridge filtration, it has a UV lamp on it, so it has all the bells and whistles that the plant had before the flood took it out. What we don't have though is all the specialist monitoring equipment that gives us absolute reassurance it's doing everything it needs. And so because that system has just been recovered and because we don't have those controls, we are asking you, and please boil your water if you're on that Eskills, Whirinaki, Kanuka Cliffs area. We will come back to you when it's safe to use the water without boiling it, but please boil your water at this stage. We cannot guarantee you as we work through. You will also see dirty water for a while because of all the breakages to the system and how fast we stood it up. Normally we would go through and flush hydrants and pull all that through, but because we're so short of water and the idea of actually getting water to the houses first was a priority, you will see some dirty water. In a week's time, if you're still getting it, please start pulling that in, and the guys will be out monitoring it, particularly as we do more and more pressure. We are having to run the plant manually because it doesn't have all that automation, and obviously we've also got a generator. So there is an operator there all through the day, and they have to come and turn on the generator, run it up. So all the automatic controls don't exist at the moment, partly with comms, but partly because we just lost it with the flood control. So key message, please conserve the water if you're on that supply for now. And please boil your water before drinking it, consuming it and brushing your teeth. We will continue to put updates. We can make it available through the hub here, but also through our website, just around instructions and FAQs about those supplies.
Some of us have no access to websites.
So we'll look to get that information available via the hub, and we're also looking at doing tomorrow a letter drop to every property that's connected to that supply, and so they'll knock on each door and if someone's home or leave something in the door. In terms of roading, it's fair to say across the district it's absolutely like a war zone. So we have had over the last 2 weeks, particularly the last week solid, over 80 crews out across the wider rural network. Most of it for the last week has been up the Puketitri Way and up north of Tutera and working in and around State Highway 5. So we're burning through those 80 crews about $500,000 a day to $600,000 a day trying to open up roads. In opening up the roads, particularly if you're going further out, we're opening them up to access at this point in time. Our first priority is to get it wide enough to get cars through, to get people in so supplies can get in and out of those properties. We're also focusing on what we can do to open up the links so farmers can get their stock out, get them to market, and also those further up into the hills where the grass stops growing and those animals will run out of feed. So that's a key priority. In the valley, we've got a particular issue that we're working with Kiwi Rail on Alice Wallace. Those who are using that rail bridge to walk across, I've never spoken to someone so fearful in their voice was the chap from Kiwi Rail after they had the inspection. It is not safe to cross that bridge. We're doing some work with them to see if we can turn it into a road rail bridge for at least a 1 year period to try and re-establish a connection. Or if we can do faster than that, if it takes too long to create a pedestrian access next to it to try and get some connection back. We're also working up the Waipanga to clear it, and I've got Sandra and I tomorrow meeting with the executive of Waka Kotahi really to push hard on the need for us to open up State Highway 2 through to Tutero so we can actually access all that area of land to the north of Esk Valley. State Highway 5, has been opened up to some essential services past that massive dropout you would have seen in the paper, but at the moment that's strictly controlled. One of the problems with opening up the roads is you do your first inspection, you think you've got it, but there's dropouts and things that are underneath. So sometimes we take 3 steps forward, but we go a step back. In terms of refuse pickup, some of you may be aware, but if not, we have a discussion afterwards to get your details. Council is pushing through on a program around those piles of household goods that you've piled up outside. We're picking that up. We've got contractors in, and you would have seen New Zealand NZ composting up around some of the streets, particularly around Pohutakawa Drive and the likes. If you haven't seen that, we've got a place where you can register for that, but also we can get your details. So what we're doing with that, we're picking all that material up, putting it in a truck. At the moment, it's going all the way across to the other side of the Tūraukuri, which is really difficult. So it's a 3-hour round trip for the trucks, just with the congestion. We're working with Napier City to see if they can set up a depot this side of the Tūraukuri to speed up that round trip. What that material is doing is we're putting in a large paddock. It goes through a massive mulcher, and it's ultimately finding its way into the landfill. So all that material, so our landfill volumes, I think yesterday was about 400 tonnes more than it normally is. Normally we do about 387 tonnes a day, and we did 790 tonnes yesterday. So there's a lot of waste in the district, a lot of stuff in the damage from this event. If you do have those piles, but if you haven't started that activity, we'd like to talk to you, because what we want to try and do, if we can get enough skips, is create skips for it to go straight in, and that just saves a whole pile of handling and it makes it a faster process. And for those who have curbside rubbish, obviously that started last week for both council, and the curbside recycling has kicked in for those residents who had that out Whirinaki North Shore Road. I think that's all from me at this point.
Would you like to ask a question? Yeah, just because you said you wanted to learn from us.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've got a plumber that lived in Pohutakawa, and he's been engaging with the council because he said, could you please let us know, give us notice when the water's going to be turned on, and trust me, we're very grateful for the water. But he was given no notice, and so the water turned on. All the work that's been done in Pohutakawa Drive, the water has now flooded 3 of the properties. Yeah, that's what I said. So I just want to let you know that, because this guy has been a hero in our community. He's sorted out all of our septic tanks. He's lost everything, but he's a hero, this guy. And all he wanted was for you guys to work with him, because he was even going to install some water for some of us at our properties. So he wanted to be here tonight, but he couldn't. He's stuck in Napier. So I said I would ask the question and let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, as you can imagine, those homeowners are feeling a little bit shocked.
My whole property was flooded as well.
Yeah.
So me and my 73-year-old dad are now spitting it out.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. I'll talk to you afterwards to get his contact details. I can only apologise for that communication breakdown, but I'd like to get his details just so we can talk to him. Yeah.
Thank you.
Question for Craig. Are you in a position to produce a schedule when you would be able to have your trucks or your bulk rubbish retrieval operations ready to go? We want a schedule so that our people can remove rubbish from the back of their sections, wherever it is, wash down State Highway 2 or whatever, out to the front so it can be easily picked up, so you're not producing an environment that fosters vermin.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to get the contacts, and I'll get Jeff, who's the chap who's managing that for us. At the moment, we've got large zones and then breaking it down. But if we can get that list, we can put a schedule together to work it through. Some of it depends on piles, as you can imagine. Some properties it's very fast, and some properties it's significant.
Here by the end of the week that all of those are picked up. No,
Yeah, we know.
yeah, we know. Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that your area still removed?
At this point in time, we're only removing silt from the roads, and we are actively trying to find enough locations to place the silt from the roads. Silt is a bigger issue that there's currently discussions across all of the Hastings Regional Council and Napier around what to do with silt and where can it go. It is a massive challenge.
I've got a question. So for the last 10 days, we've been trying to get help on Waipuna Road. So you've obviously got all the trucks dumping the silt on Napier Chapel Road by us, which is fine, but the trucks are coming out Waipuna Road and going up
we've got about 2 metres of silt on the lands, but they're bringing the silt onto the road. We're isolated, so no one came and helped. And we run the regional council, they came to us, allowed me to do the voting. Run Napier City Council, I even went down and spoke to the truck bus saying, can you help us? We were stuck. And that's quite high. We still haven't got clear, we couldn't even get out. And it's only a little bit, the trucks can get through, but we can't get through with cars. So we had someone really nice one for Aniki come down with his tractor, he's been helping us. But financially, he can't come and do that. But all we need is the road clear just after the bridge, get rid of it because we're flooding. We keep on flooding because the water's coming out. But get rid of some of that silt and then we'll have access. We've got no access out.
We just get your address at the end.
Because I'll
get your address
pick that up with Hawke Kotahi as well, just to look at which party.
Craig, can I talk to you after this? I'm at Alice Wallace resident who walks
the bridge.
Yeah.
I just want to ask about drainage along Sapphire Drive. The Athlone Hill, there's some drains that have not been working properly for many years. They're obviously not working people now, and they cross multiple properties. And what the council's doing about that.
I'll need to find out where those drains are and have a conversation both with either.
It's a bit tricky because most of the drains in the Napier, well, at least I don't know about Hastings, but in Napier, most of them are private drains. Which have been assumed by the council as a place to dump their water over the years. I can refer a written dialogue I've had with the three parties before around that. So it's not a simple thing because it's actually not owned by the councils, it's actually owned by the private landowners. So, and they're historical drains, you know, and as urbanisation has increased and no one wants to deal with it. So I just clarify that some of those drains are private drains and we do need to talk about it, but maybe separately.
Point, they exit underneath the road where the power substation is. And he's dug a drain today from the substation into the private drain, and I hate to tell him, but I think it's going to be an input rather than an
It'd be good to understand where the drains are, you know, so,
because I need to have a conversation with obviously Hawke Kotahi, who's not here around.
This is sorry, Andrew, this isn't, you know, we've got the little corner at Napier, we're Napier City Council. So for some people who don't realise, we're on the flat, we're horticultural land.
Yes.
The land from Hill Road to the end of the highway there is all Napier City Council on one side of the road. So we're often forgotten.
Okay.
A bit of a problem.
All right. Well, we need to do that together.
Just join it up.
Just join it up. Yeah.
Can I ask about this? Because I have a bit of, it's not household rubbish, it's my shedding has pretty much gone all over my neighbour's property. Are you going to pick that up, or am I? That's my problem. And I don't want to do anything until I actually have a good picture about what's going. But I've got a lot of horticultural rubbish as well. Because some of my oak trees for my truckery actually stood up, and there's quite a lot of stuff in there. It's a little bit dangerous. Looking for direction in relation to maybe a bit more not just household rubbish, but a little bit more like food.
So in terms of outside of the household rubbish, there is some work going on, and NEMA and discussions around a hazardous waste collection, because as you can, in this valley, in the Esk Valley over here, through Chester Hope and Parkway and Dartmoor Valley, there's a lot of spray sheds and there's a lot of products in there that needs to be collected up in a safe way and dealt with safely, so we don't create a different issue. We'll need to come back to you once that's landed. There's work underway of how to do that, and they're looking up.
No, we'll take your details here. We've got a team over here to afterwards.
So we'll have to use multiple channels anyway. Radio's found its favour back, which is a great thing, but we'll work through the hubs and so forth.
So gentleman at the back.
Just, you know how you said you've had people out assessing all the houses and stickering them? Have you got people in the field checking out all the drains and actually using the local knowledge and going out on these roads to use the knowledge of the people Have you got anybody that does that, or are you just relying on us to bring you about all these little separate things that may actually
Do you want to talk about the drains, Neil? The drains? You want to talk about the drains? Because yeah, so we're clearing the roads at the moment, and the regional council are clearing the drains and all the silt. So
yeah, well, there's two parts. There is, just to be fair, for Neil, the roadside drains. I don't know what Waka Kotahi are doing, and we can pick that up in a conversation. We're working it, as you can imagine, this task is massive, so we're working it through in a staged way. So as the contractors go through and open up roads, they're picking up the follow-up work around side drains that may be clearing. But always, just like in BAU, if people see a blockage that may have been missed, or you know how systems have idiosyncrasies, call them in. Just call them in through, if it's in Hastings District, 871 5000, that'll get logged, and we will get to it. It's just hard to get to everything at once.
lady?
Hi, just wondering also, like we've got caravans and cars and,
Yeah.
and a lovely man's house just from us, and how are those sorts of things going to get taken away?
So I spoke to the lady yesterday. So
Yeah, John.
Yeah, most of the insurance companies, my son's car has been written off, so part of that is if they write it off, they'll come and get the car and take it away. And so they're just working through, as you can imagine, there's hundreds of cars to do. So I'm not sure about the caravan. Was that insured? I guess I'm assuming.
It's not mine, it's the...
Oh, so that's
just
come from
landed.
other properties.
Yes, it's
So you've got to
landed
do the
on
registration
East
and chase it back.
Valley. Yeah,
We're trying to
Sorry.
there's about 3 caravans.
We just need to know when-
Okay.
who's going to...
We can track it through the registration.
Yeah, John. Hang on. Carlene's going to be able to help us.
So I've reached out to someone there.
Oh, sorry, Carleen.
I've reached out to a couple of the locals there who I understand helped those people during the incident, and I've asked them to provide me with the owner's details. Because if we can contact them and understand whether they've heard from their insurance company, if they give us the okay, then we can actually then potentially
Get them removed.
Yeah.
But we need to understand from an owner's
We
perspective
just-
we're okay to do that.
So it's a house there, John.
Yeah.
It's blown down. Right?
I suggest they've probably got a registration plate. If you've got those numbers, then Carlene we can search that and try and find who the owners are. Okay.
Just to clarify, the stickering process isn't complete. I managed to see and it hasn't happened. So when will that
What's
be
that?
finished?
Yep.
What's
So the stickering process is that we have done part of the East Valley, but I think, Tony, you heading up that way. Where are you located?
Oh, yeah.
I'm in between Taves Road and North Shore Road. So that's State Highway 2.
Right.
Okay, we'll follow up.
We'll follow up. We'll get your details.
Tony can look it up.
I have lodged the address
Okay.
already and I got no reply.
Okay. So,
But my actual question was
Yep,
not
sorry.
that. I wanted to ask a question about slash. Are we discussing that today?
I guess so.
Because I
And
have,
Neil can give you that one.
I have a 1.5 hectare property and I have 20 metre trees on my side. So my property basically shelters North Shore Road from getting destroyed, but I have 1.5 hectares of slash that I picked up about 10 feet high.
So HBRC are picking up slash, so
I had a conversation with them and they said, well, if you'd like to pop it all together in a pile. Pick it up. And I said, well,
That's quite hard.
it's a 1.5 hectare pile.
No.
And we are talking 20 metre long trees. So, and some of them are a metre in diameter. You know, they're
You've
real
got the same. Okay.
We can't get chainsaw through them either.
No.
You want me to?
I saw Parada on the State Highway picking them up yesterday.
Property, but I can only get small debris picked up if I pop it in a pile in an easy spot.
A very good question amongst several others, people dealing with waste and debris that's come onto their property or left their property.
Or the bigger size debris.
Yes, I think it'd be fair to say that last week was dire emergency week. This week we're attending to those matters, and what we're trying to do, council to council, is to join that up. Regional council's got a role to play in terms of finding those sites, securing those sites. We don't want to make the problem worse, by putting contamination in someone else's backyard or making a bigger problem for ourselves. So there's if you like, an overlay of consideration of where we're putting material. And then we're joining it up because we've got Hastings District and Napier City have responsibilities to gather up all of that flood waste and try and do something with it. And that's not easy to do just off the bat. And I think it would be fair to say one of the comments I was going to make is in all of this there are a couple of things that we can say. One is that we are humbled because we can and should and will do better. That's the first thing. The other thing to say is to be thankful that communities like this have stepped up and filled that void, and we've learnt those particular lessons. There are plenty of opportunities. You've talked about slash, for example, and amongst other problems, if you like, in our waterways. Let's focus on talking about those soon. We'll look at every opportunity we can to deal with those issues a little further out. Let's get this waste off your properties. Great question over here around the health risk that those piles of rubbish are presenting at the present time. We can't get that off fast enough. And one thing I'd like to urge you to do, I was in a few of the streets in Miani yesterday, and we've got a number of people, particularly elderly, who are sitting in a squalid house, flooded out, have no idea what to do. So as you're the eyes and ears of the community, if you can at least let us know who they are so that we can make that contact. There is difficulty, for example, with any of the local authorities or any council stepping onto private property, removing a caravan, for example. We simply can't do that without the consent of the property owner. So there's that, if you like, urgency around dealing with waste. I think it's today's biggest issue, and we've probably got a week to 10 days to deal with it before it becomes a highly urgent issue. And what we're doing collectively across the councils is say where we're going to put this stuff, how can we dispose of it in a way that's safe, how can we recover stuff that shouldn't be going to landfill. So we're just dealing with those sorts of issues, and we need to also talk about who's going to pay. So that's we're talking, for example, regional council, $1 million a day at present dealing with what we're seeing in front of us. We're busy protecting those waterways, our rivers, etc. We've got to stand up any damage to stock banks because, as you know, the next storm event is tomorrow or the next day or the day after. So we are frantic to try and avoid that sort of damage from a regional council perspective. The short answer to your question, and I know you'll be anxious about that, is how do you do that as an individual? You simply can't move those logs. We will find a solution.
My concern is the logs that I've got on my property will take out a house. So if we get another flood,
sure,
they could very well be responsible.
Sure. There's a huge lesson here, in all of us, about what actually caused huge damage to everything around us. But we are working on solutions. The mayors are committed. Mayor Wise, who's currently not here tonight, but worked with me yesterday to try and resolve the very issue you've talked about and get those piles of rubbish away, clear the rubbish off your properties, and we will do our best to ensure there is sufficient resourcing and funding to make it happen. It's that urgent for us.
Neil, there's a question just down here as well.
This is a statement more than anything. I'm speaking as a former forest manager who ran large machines. Putting large machines into an environment like Tate Road or North Shore Road, some of those places, which are really muddy and just awash with rubbish. They don't get traction. You can't actually move any
I
heavy
actually
machine.
have the woodhold on my property, so it can get traction.
Okay, some of them can get in, but there's a lot of land up here in the East Valley where it's just not possible to move heavy machinery at the moment, and if we did, it would get stuck.
Yeah.
So,
I'm aware of that.
So we have to pick and choose sites.
Yeah. But even just getting the logs off our houses would be really ideal, like, instead of having 15 metre logs sitting on the front
Okay, so we'll log your address, we'll take your address and follow up. The lady down there?
Do you consider the silt to be a health issue for you?
Yes, it's definitely a health issue.
I'll just go to
Sorry.
Craig. We'll just do from a technical perspective about waste and silt.
Neil may have been able to answer actually. I know the HBRC team have been out doing a number of samples of it because the natural piece is to jump, it's dangerous and it's a health risk long term. Definitely straight after the event, when you're in there working around it, you do need to have your masks from a dust perspective and your gloves and so forth because your skin, if you've got any gaps on it. But they are getting some testing done just to see are there any long-term effects of some of that silt. There are some areas, and as you can imagine, and there's a bit of stuff in the media in and around Awatoto with the amount of industrial and chemicals and so forth. But in other areas, actually, after a period of time, it may not have a significant issue. So that's getting worked through.
At this point in time, you would see it as at risk?
I think if you're working in it and cleaning it up, you need to take some basic PPE protections, your mask around the ear, gloves and covering your skin and so forth, particularly while it's still wet.
Putting a wellness centre in the middle of the war zone and the silt is perhaps the wrong choice.
If it's very dusty, I think that needs to be thought about.
Well, that's what Hastings has done.
I'm not sure how.
Sorry?
That's where you are, is that Estate? You're at Linden Estate.
No, so that was the community. Greg and the team have set up that there, and I went up yesterday, and it's set up just like this with all the services in there and wellness.
Silty, it's dusty.
It's devastated, and you're encouraging more people to travel out there to donate, to drop stuff off, and I know from people that talk to me in the community that they feel uncomfortable about that.
Well, we need to talk to the team up there.
It's residents only.
Yeah.
I've got a comment to make. There's been numerous comments made up from the top up there about coming up and seeing and taking details of issues that we've got here. There's been comments about people that are looking at squalor, don't know what to do at the moment. I'll give you a first-hand example. Today I was down Brookfields Road with friends of mine who have been inundated by the floods.
Yes.
And they don't know who the hell to contact, who to ring. Are you guys, everyone goes for social media and that sort of thing, internet. Are there any plans for the council to do a pamphlet drop and some door knocks with the proper information, with either web pages, phone numbers, information what services are being offered, like the clean-up service? Friends of mine today didn't realise I paid for multiple skips, commercial skips to clean the house out. They now find they can dump it out the road. They didn't know that before that because they haven't got the information. They've got a family across the road, an elderly couple who don't know anything at all. They've got no Facebook page or anything like that. They're going to need to get something out, some door knocking done, and some information shared on paper so that people have got phone numbers and some way of finding out what the correct avenue and the correct place to go to for each of the individual issues.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And Pakawhai is an area that has been really, really damaged severely, and the community there are suffering. And so while there's been various civil defence people door knocking, they haven't got to everybody. So we are looking at, the hall was cleaned out on Sunday. The hall is now able to be used, and now we're looking at having the same sort of situation with an information evening for all the community. Flyers put out to say, please come along. All the information will be shared like this tonight.
It's 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
These guys are living in shit, and it's just disgusting. And the only way they're getting information is from us coming from Bayview because of our hub, going out to their labs. We knew nothing about hygiene, they knew nothing about rubbish, and they don't know what to do with the silt.
And this isn't just aimed at Parkway, this is across the broad community where we've got flood damage and people in our community out here in our back doorstep. It's footpath, it's all around the area.
Yep.
There's information out to people on paperwork and pamphlets they can look at. Some can where they know who to ring, who to contact for help.
Yeah, so I can only speak on behalf of what's been set up here, and that is that stuff has been printed. There are newsletters, bulletin boards they call it or something. It is a hard copy that is going to be delivered, so that's going out to the community with exactly what you've asked for, all the phone numbers to call if you find a cow in your backyard that's dead, you know, get rid of waste, all that sort of stuff, that's there. And I know that councils have set up an 0800 number as well, which is just that it's
Civil
for
defence.
everyone. So civil defence are running it, but it's an 0800 number, and it's a one-stop shop, as in regardless of what your needs are, your requests, your question, you phone this 0800 number, and that's also on those notices going out, and they will direct it to where it needs to go as well.
Animal welfare was great. I don't know who was running animal welfare, but they went all up the wall up in the army going, what animals did you have, what animals do you have now? So, and that's the exercise. You think you could also go, how are you, what else do you need, this is what we can do.
So those needs assessments are absolutely critical, and that's everybody working together to get those needs. You know, what do people need? Where have they got somewhere to live? You know, all of that stuff. And so Pokitapu on Tuesday, they've got their hub set up and by the school, and now south on the Red Shed, which is the same as this. It's an information place where people can get everything they need. So what we've had to rely on our community actually helping us set up these things, with us now taking over and manning them. I see Civil Defence now advertising for more staff to come and man the hubs because the volunteers are getting tired after 2 weeks. So that's Puketapu South and North. That's really, really great. All of the rural community have got hubs in every area, community hubs set up by the community in each area across the rural community. So, you know, it's like this is massive. It's the whole region, and it's just trying to get to everyone at once, and it's been really, really hard.
I've got a tricky question for you long term. I understand the importance of getting the roads clear, but if you drive up State Highway 5, on either side of the road, there's 2 metres of silt, and then it goes out to the hills, and so our properties are there. Is the long-term plan to clear all of the silt? Do we have to try and get all of that silt away? What happens to all of that? Or is that in the ground level? And if so, like, what? And it's really hard to kind of make plans for yourself because short-term actions, because you need to know what the long-term is before you make those decisions around what you do with your own silt.
Great question. I'll take it. You're addressing probably one of our biggest longer term from an economic perspective issues. If you think about the deposition of silt across a hectare, we're talking 6,000 tonnes. If it's half a metre deep, 6,000 tonnes of silt to move. That's going to be one question to answer, and likely to be we can't do anything with that other than build on top of it again, sort of renovate or replenish the soil in that manner, because that's what the river system wanted to do, is build itself up like that. Where, and the example in Miani, for example, where we've got large orchards with, say, 6 inches of silt or a little less, likely to kill trees, etc. How do you deal with that? That's another hard thing to try and answer, and we haven't got those answers quite yet. We do know that we're needing to clear silt from houses, around houses, and dig that out so that people aren't exposed to that sort of contamination. We do know we need to clear the silt from the roadsides and remove that, and we're looking for safe places to place it at the moment. Look, I haven't got an answer on what that big picture looks like, but it's something we're sort of working hard on.
Just carrying on from this sort of comment, I have been advised by a couple of crop-type people that with regard to if you have paddocks, the silt isn't actually a bad thing if you wanted a higher level. It can actually be left and turned and worked, and it's actually quite good for like grass species and that sort of thing.
Well, the irony is it's full of nutrients. As long as it's not contaminated, there will be high levels of nutrients. So nature's got a funny way of working its way through that. That's how we built. That's what Hawke's Bay is. The economy is. That's how plains are built on. Is the quality and nutrient values in those silts that have been deposited, just as they were.
So it could be positive if you're looking at
long term.
I prefer not, but long term, yeah. Yes. Yes. So there are a lot of issues you as landowners are going to have to weigh up as to where you're going to take your property next and what your land use you're going to apply to it. Spot on.
And any consideration being given to red zoning the area? We've got a very significant widespread effect.
You raise a great question, but I think it's a question for next week or the week after, and it's something that the leaders of the community currently are working on, setting up a mechanism to deal with that issue. You've got
just with the usage of the silt, is there any chance that we could possibly use it into rebuilding up our stopbacks as being of silt?
Unfortunately, no, because it doesn't make such great material for that purpose. We've got to come up with innovative solutions for it. If we've got to locate that silt, it could be that we find low nutrient zones to place it and try and use it to best use. Those sorts of solutions are welcomed, but we just don't have that answer this week. Hopefully next week or the week after we might.
It took 50 years for the silt in the valley to come right up at the 38 plane.
That's a reality. Trying to farm in that sort of immediate environment is pretty tough.
I've got a statement that I want to state and then ask a question, please.
Sorry, yep.
There's been a lot of support through the community with small businesses and local business contractors and stuff going out and working for free and in effect doing this cleanup. Is the council going to support this community and those small workers by employing them in the future to keep our economic community going, or are you just going to farm it all out to big contractors and it all goes out to shareholders out here?
So all our Craig, you talk about our local contractors that have been employed, and Civil Defence are also employing. Sorry. You want to answer this question?
I think Neil had a good point, and it's come up in a number of meetings. I'm John O'Shaughnessy. I live over here on Rogers Road. You might have read in the paper today, the Deputy Prime Minister and also Mr Roach, who's been appointed a National Recovery Manager, have actually raised the issue of the possibility of red zones. That's something that the government are working through, and it comes to the question you ask. What do we decide? Where do we go? Do we decide to rebuild here, etc., etc.? So those things are starting to be worked through, but the government have said they want to address these questions because at the moment we're still obviously in the event phase. We're moving into recovery, but it's very hard to make decisions about the future unless you know if you're in one of those areas. So if you go back to the Dominion today, or get a copy of it, there's quite a good article there, and it sets out some areas that possibly the government are considering. So it's not something that the council has the power to do, but the councils, both regional and Napier and Hastings, will be involved in those discussions. But it's not as though the council's got the power to do the red zone part of it on its own, but it does the stickering side, and I'll talk about that a little bit after the contractors.
You can give advice as a council.
What happens is it's a central government and the councils get involved in that, but that's a process that still needs to be worked through. Okay.
Do you have an estimate how long that was a stool, for instance, in Christchurch?
Too long.
Too long. I think it was quite a long period, maybe, but I don't know because I've only been reading up about it. But I can try and find out for you, and I'll give you my card, and it may help you. But you just need, you just need to know that that is something on the table, and being straightforward, honest, in that article, there was mention of a number of areas, and one of them was the East Valley. Okay.
Well, we're going to be advocating to government for a process very quickly. And so the process will be with the banks, will be with the Insurance Council, will be with the local councils to understand where, how do we build our Hawke's Bay back better. So these are the conversations that we're asking, that we said to the Minister today. This is really, really crucial that we get on to this and not leave people in a time of uncertainty of knowing what to do next.
I just have a comment to follow on from that. It's not really comparable to Christchurch. Christchurch was a natural disaster. This is a combination. So yes, there's been a natural disaster, but there's a lot of rubbish that has destroyed homes and people's lives and killed people. So you can't compare it to Christchurch. It would be stupid to do that. You know, there's a lot of evidence there. There's a lot of killer logs out there. There's all sorts of things that, you know, I sat in the flood and I watched the water get dammed by the splash and then release, and then we get it calm, or we get dammed again and then release. If it was just a flood, we'd have a different outcome to what we've got. So I think it needs to be really clear that this is not comparable to Christchurch in that sense. There's more questions around whether it's just a natural disaster or not. There's other factors involved, and my insurance company is very aware of that, so there'll be branches too.
Yep, absolutely. So just want to answer the gentleman's question about contractors and making sure we use local and who we're employing and how. And Craig will answer that because we've got about 85 teams employed at the moment, about 1,000 workers.
Yeah, so in terms of the rural roading cleanup, yes, a national company, Fulton Hogan, is coordinating that effort, but actually most of that work is a whole pile of local contractors from up and down Hawke's Bay. There is forestry contractors who've been diverted back in some of the household
contracts from out of town as well.
Yeah, there's lots of people who had equipment. What a lot of the contractors had done is actually logged through with civil defence across all the councils around, I've got this equipment, I've got this amount of tools, and largely what we've been doing has been working through this work task, is going through that logistics list and calling them up, are they available, do they have this size equipment? We still have a whole pile of requirements on us around health and safety, despite the event, and so when we're working with some smaller contractors, some of them we can triage and put them under the umbrella of contractors who have some of those safety systems that we're required to use and have in place. But if there are firms who are interested in working with us, I'm more than happy to collect up their details, because we're always looking to work with different size contractors for all sorts of different works, but it's also being aware of them. As I said, though, they do need to have the appropriate health and safety systems, and we do it. Yeah, we can work through, but we are using mainly local people. Yes, for some of their household waste, for example, I mentioned before NZ composting. They were contacts that we had that we knew had grapples. They've got the massive mulching grinding. They actually can crunch up those household goods. So we went to people that we knew who could make action really, really fast, because we were trying to stand up that activity, which at the moment is burning about $130,000 for crushing it a week and about $75,000 a week on collection. So that'll keep going until we're finished.
And Hawke's Bay Civil Defence are now employing people, so any of the volunteers who want to be employed to relieve and help, because the volunteers are tired, MSD is actually employing people now to help with the recovery and the response. So I went out to, Omahu Marae, they've got volunteers there that are getting paid. There's various parts getting that people now can register with MSD to be employed and take over and help with the response. So that work's happening at the moment. If anyone wants their contact details, the Civil Defence are now employing.
This gentleman over here.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. My name's Kevin Mitchell. I'm with the East Coast Rural Support Trust. And we're really concerned about some of our isolated communities.
Kevin, come up. You want to come up here?
We've got one up the Alice Wallace Road.
Yeah.
Neil and I in McLaren who have to cross the River Esk twice to get onto their property. They won't get out for weeks, probably months. They're being serviced by a local helicopter, Ricky Graham, and he's done it from the day one. Yesterday he was stood down. It is totally unacceptable.
So Kevin, we sent supplies. In fact, I filled up a chili bin myself, as well as a whole helicopter full of supplies for Alice Wallace Road, and the team was putting them out.
Yeah, they actually got distributed. However, I only realised yesterday and spoke to Dan last night. I sent him a message to say that the McLarens were there. I also spoke to his sister because I was concerned that I even knew they were there, because I kept saying who's up there,
and all we think is Scots and numbers 79, and I didn't know that.
I'm Neil's sister, they can't get to the shop. They can't get to that food.
So that's the information we need, because we can give their own drops.
We've given that information.
We've got all that information on spreadsheets.
Oh,
that
good.
We've been sharing and trying to share.
Oh, great.
Our initial crew's been out and did all the...
Yeah,
We're
group did the
supplying
helicopter
him
drop
as a
on
family.
Saturday night.
Up the valley to a helicopter that's 7 minutes flight away. The way you've set it up, we have to take everything to Hastings across that murderous divide and then fly all the way up there. It's just not inefficient. It's not efficient, it's very inefficient.
We need to
We'll
feed
go back to
them.
group.
Yeah, so
We'll send that
needs to
into
be
group
fixed.
for you,
And
Kevin.
there's
a real
locals
practical
that have got
problem.
pilots that were
Yep.
doing that in the early stages
Yep.
that can help with that too.
Yep.
And on the contractors, we've got a whole database of all the contractors that helped from the get-go, from day one, that are available to help now,
Brilliant.
that we've tried to pass on.
Yeah,
Great,
well, see, Ricky's,
thank you.
you know, he works in the rural area. There's going to be no work for him, basically. We can use him.
And he knows
Keep his business alive.
on the road.
Yeah.
But you've got the information, that's what I get.
Yeah.
I've worked in the hub for a period of time, but we've got spreadsheets that I see that have sent to Hastings as a council, we've gone,
No.
So don't forget local people.
It's going into the group. Is that being fed into the group? Dan, how does that work?
So
Yep.
it's been passed on from the community volunteers who gathered all that intel.
Yep.
That's gone through Napier City Council, it's been passed on to Hastings District Council, and Hastings District Council have passed it on to group, so civil defence.
just listen to that.
Oh, no, Dan, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. Okay, all right, thank you. That's not the system that we want to be running through a civil defence emergency. Thank you for raising that, Kevin. I know that 6 families got some supplies on Sunday because I was part of that. We didn't know about your family. We need to follow that up. This is the stuff that we need to know. We've got pockets out there that we're not looking after. Unless we get that information, and actually I got that through a text to myself and dealt with it on Sunday. So,
But the information was given to civil defence.
right, so that's the fall down. So thank you for that. We need to follow that up and find out why.
Hastings Council only arrived here on Sunday. You only arrived here on Sunday. If you went here when Dan's team was here earlier, you would have had that information earlier.
Well,
You know why those helicopters were stood down? Civil aviation said there are 2 hidden helicopters up there, it's dangerous.
yes, they've put a ban on it. We talked about that to the Minister today. We need to have that ban lifted off civil aviation. Yep.
The biggest breakthrough in this whole thing was when we used local knowledge to coordinate this sort of thing, and we coordinated local knowledge. That's when the biggest breakthrough happened. That's when FENS saved 2 days' work from talking to Richard Payne here. You guys need to talk to the people that were on the ground from day one and get it from the horse's mouth. And maybe you could probably start paying them from now on, since they've done so much for free till now, because that is what
The same example that at one stage user guys started talking to our local voluntary firefighters. They know the area, and all of a sudden they could do the job in half the time that they needed before.
Look, there's clearly one group missing here, Dan, and that is group who's in charge of civil defence. It's not councils. There's one group missing here from this meeting today to explain to the folks how everything is working. Because you're working for civil defence, and the team over here working for civil defence, everyone's working for civil defence, they're coordinating it. We've got a hole here, the people aren't getting the information through. We need to take that back and sort it out. We're hearing you, okay?
I make a suggestion, Sandra.
Yes.
A flat management structure.
Yes.
Empowered.
Love that.
A vertically integrated one that you described.
Yes.
Fails and is slow.
Absolutely.
Flat, empowered is what we want.
Absolutely agree.
Lady in the flag.
On the subject of civil defence.
Yes.
Great that they evacuated Hawke
Yes.
by 7 o'clock Monday night. However, they passed 40 houses that didn't know until it was too late. Civil defence sent a text at 5:28. Too late.
People were dead by then.
On the ground, they appeared at 10 o'clock.
They were dead by then.
Yep.
People were dead. Oh, you must evacuate. It was down by then.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
we've been failed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I hear
You've almost talked everything to death.
you. Yes.
How about having some people stringing wires up, putting the electricity back on?
Which moves me to my next protocol. Quentin, if he's around somewhere, we're going to get a quick update from Unison in relation to power and whatnot. Let's get an update.
Look, I'm Quentin Barco. I'm a General Manager at Unison. I'm also in charge of the overall response to Cyclone Gabriel to get power back to the people. I will just say I moved from up here down here not to distance myself because I'm part of Lifelines, but because it's bloody hot up there. And I thought I might faint if I stayed up here. All right?
Yeah.
Look, Unison is a company in order to empathise with what you're doing. But we also fully cognizant we don't fully understand what you're going through. Every community is different in terms of needs. Hear the point loud and clear, use local knowledge. And when we come into a community, that's what we do.
We have the same 3 guys appear 3 days running with the same pieces of paper, with the same areas of line out. They were pissed off that they couldn't deliver. They were embarrassed.
Yep.
And still, we're going to be without power for the 31st of March.
Well, if you could just let me
Not
sort
their fault.
of explain what I'm going to talk about. Look, at Unison, we knew very early on the biggest contribution we can play to helping the communities is getting the power on as soon as possible. Second to that is keeping the power on. And I could stand up here and tell you about the last 16 days, 17 days in terms of what we've done, what we've achieved, but actually that's probably furthest from your mind. You're probably all just sitting here wondering what's our plan to get power into this community. Yeah? And I'm here to tell you that today. All right? I'm here joined by John Dunford. He is actually a member of the community, and he's got local knowledge and obviously contacts, but there's other people he doesn't know that are going to be helpful in terms of what we do. Now, John put the plan together, and we went through that a couple of days ago, and we started implementing the plan earlier, but in real earnest. So I'm not sure if you've noticed, but we've had an influx of Unison people in the community over the last week. All right. It's come Monday, you will see a significant step change in the amount of people that will be here. All right. What I can tell you, and I'll tell you in 3 parts, all right? There's a whole lot of surrounding areas where we get power on, all right? So I'm not going to talk about those. If you were in those areas that have some power on, but you don't have power at your house, come and talk to this man here, Neil, who's got the high vision. He'll talk to you about that.
How do you know if you're in one of those areas, if you have an isolated house?
Okay, what area are you in? I'll talk to you.
Well, I'm on the way to put an in. Where they just put the poles up.
Yeah, so is that
just gone up at Tate's Road today.
Is that?
Does that have power go through here?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. So I'll talk about the other areas. We can come circle back and talk about yours. All right. We're going to start from State Highway 5 and come through. One of the issues that you all know about is the East Dale Road. It was underwater, even with a little bit more rain, it's getting more underwater. Take your point about the culvert and the back feeding. We've got people there at the moment trying to clean it all out so we can get it back up and running. So we've been doing a lot of listening as well about some of the challenges. So come Monday, I'm hoping it's sooner than Monday, we'll be putting a generator, our switching station, on the end of East Dale Lane. Okay? And what that'll do, it'll feed East Dale Lane, those houses will come on, we've nearly finished restoring that line, and it will go through until Hill Road. And we all know that, you should know that Hill Road is back, the Bayview is also on power at the moment. All right? We're going to have two big teams. Each team has 3 crews. It has civils, it has fitters, technicians, and everything. And they're going to be moving their way up State Highway 5 to get the power into your communities. All right? If I talk about progress, we're hoping to have by Friday next week, everything that can be livened up to Shore Road. There's quite a bit of damage there. There's a lot of work that needs to go into doing that. We're aiming for Friday next week in terms of Shore Road. By the Friday of the following week, we hope to have power right up Alice Wallace Road, Waipunga Road, and around all that way. All right.
I'd like to say it's great to have somebody here that actually has a positive plan that's going to be in place.
Probably noticed as well, some of your staff are working into the dusk because we pushed them out of their homes so that they could show the control room the down power works and the play all night. So some of them were really using their initiative in their own time. So thank you for your staff. Well done.
Look, I might get a bit emotional when I talk about our staff. If you think about the field staff, they're the ones you see out there day in, day out. But sitting behind me, just like a lot of the lifelines, there's a whole lot of people working behind the scenes to make that happen. And that's including people that come to work 6 o'clock in the morning to cook breakfast for all our crews from outside the region, inside the region, so the welfare and supply throughout the day. So it's a whole army or a whole team of people achieving that result. We will, come Tuesday next week, we will be able to produce even a clearer plan by polls in terms of where we intend to be at the end of each every day. All right? So you know where you are in terms of that. But that's only one point. So Unison, if we think about Unison, generally, we supply power down the street to the pole, and that's it. All right? But if our philosophy is getting power back to the people, if your service main doesn't work, or if you need electrical safety certificate, it doesn't matter if you've got power in the street if you don't have power to your house. All right? So we're going beyond that to fix that up as well. All right? If your service main is damaged, when they come through to put the main line on, if it's a simple fix, they will fix the service main there. If it's not, there's a secondary team coming through. And the reason for that is we can't slow the main line guys down. We want them to go through as fast as possible. A secondary team, we're supported by Hawke Electrical, will come through after that to address any significant service maintenance. All right. Then there's the stickers. All right. So we've got when we come through to liven the properties, if it's got a red sticker, obviously we won't be livening that property.
If it has no sticker.
If it has no sticker,
You just do it?
if it has no sticker, this is a process we go through. One, can we smell gas? And it won't liven. Is the N sticker on it? If not, if it's a red sticker, we won't liven. If it's a yellow 2 sticker, then that means that you can have a portion of it.
Yep.
And you'll need an electrical safety certificate for the power to be livened. But what we didn't want to do is make you have to go to an electrician to get that and incur the costs. So we are sorting all that. All right.
Sorry, we had to do that. We had to get, when we got our power 2 days ago.
Yep.
They wouldn't make it live until we got an electrician to test, to come up and check the lines.
Yep.
And then, so we did that, and he said, I'm not sure why, and then we still had the power on because they needed us to print the certificate.
So there will be isolated incidents like that, all right? You know, as we firm up our processes, we'll fix that. You can actually send me that ball and I'll fix you up with that.
Could you clarify the yellow sticker? Like I've got a yellow sticker on the door, on the window there, and it says restricted entry. It's not like the house is flooded. We can't do this, and there's no point.
Yep.
Right when you show up. So you might probably go back. In a place like that, you know, are there different yellow stickers, you know, as far as the building is, you know, you can enter it, red stickers that you cannot enter that building. Is there a difference there, please?
Can I just finish what I'm going to say and then we'll explain the sticker, because this man here will explain it, but it will interrupt my flow. And I'll practice all day. So, the next thing is it's got no sticker, but our people see that it's flood damaged.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a subjective assessment from our people. What we'll do is we'll send an electrician to come around with the homeowner to check if we can liven it. Okay? So we do that. So if it's got a sticker or not, if they haven't finished putting the stickers on, from a safety point of view, we need to know that down. All right? If it looks like, and this happens, if it looks like the lines come down and someone's done a dodgy repair to connect it, then we will fix that up as well, and we'll lie on the fix. All right? We're not going to leave you in the lurch.
Well, would you, if some people need to repair their homes and they won't be able to connect electricity to the house as well, what about builders box, where they run power from so that they can do the repairs and bills and stuff?
Yep. So if we can, it's safe to do so. We'll work with you to get the main box turned into a more temporary supply. If that can't be done, we'll talk to you about what else we can do. All right. Now, also realise from a safety point of view that lines down trees don't touch them. You don't know when they're going to come on, just like the water issue. All right. If lines down don't touch them, tell our people to come in and get them out of the road. All right. Now, we also know we've been in a crisis. So people have to do what they do to get generators on, some sort of power. You know that, and there's some pretty innovative and creative people in this community. All right. The issue we've got is if you do a dodgy connection with a power with a generator, not only could it harm you and your property, our guys working on the line get that. All right. And there's no difference from being on the main line to the generator in terms of the health and safety issue. All right. So today, I give it amnesty. All right. If anyone's done any dodgy wiring, out to their property, come and see Neil, give them your name, bring it, tell me who it is. We will come and reverse that. Okay. So that you can get proper power to your home. All right.
We are still talking.
100%. I could talk about a lot of things.
I was asked about State Highway 2 up past Taranaki.
Yep.
To Waipaki Beach, that road. The map says today, tomorrow.
Well, hot off the press. They've just finished the electrical inspections, and if it's not live now, it should be live very, very shortly. But just so you know, all of the through and out past that really damaged point is over the bridge. Parts will be off on the generator, right up to the Tongoy over there, and obviously I can talk about other areas this year.
Where did you say would be on now?
Right now?
Potentially, just the...
Well, right at this moment, you've got Hill Road going out, right from State Highway 5.
Oh, I thought you were saying 5 with an E.
Yep, 5 miles. We're at the front.
It should be everything north of North Shore Road, and towards Wairoa, all that area, right up to the intersection of Tongoy Settlement Road and State Highway 2.
The beach is on one of the beach. Yep.
Encompassing all.
Right around the east of Tongoy feeder, any car coming that way. Now, see, I'll circle back to the point about 3 people turning up and being frustrated. I'd much rather that than no one turning up and their customer being frustrated. We have to fix up our processes, and we have done that. That came about because 3 eager people saw the issue and said 3 different people. All right?
Not their problem, they were great, but they were getting frustrated. We weren't frustrated because we could see somebody on the ground trying to do something.
It's trust me, it's isolated.
We've got about 300 metres of private line from the highway up to our meter box. Are you saying that Jensen might help us with that, or?
Let's talk about it.
Yay!
You guys are responsible for the box anyway, aren't you? The town drives.
No. We're all things on the street. But obviously we're extending past that because no point having it in the street. None of that.
We've got 3 power poles.
You're Waipaki Road, eh?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Yep. So this man's going to come and fix it.
Sorry, 300 metres of service line. Is it got a transformer at the end? On the pole, on the last pole, or is it?
No.
No.
Oh, it's by your house.
Yes, and it goes underground. We've put the lines underground.
There's no big box on that pole.
The 300
So
metres
if there is, we own it anyway. If it's high voltage, it's high voltage, we own it anyway.
Unison has come out and said that the lines from the highway up are our responsibility.
We'll come in and we'll talk about it, all right? We'll come and have a look and see what.
There's a couple of properties that are in the same.
Probably just the final thing I want to say is, you know, we've got a number of questions that we're working through at the moment ourselves, because the poles go at ground level, and when they go through, some of our ones go through private property, what is the new level, and they're going to keep it silted or not. But we're just going to come through and smash it out anyway and sort that out later. But we can't do it alone either. So if anyone's got any ideas about how we can do some of the stuff, even access up Waipunga Road and things like that, we'll helicopter poles in it, we don't mind.
Can I just say, can you tell these guys how to operate? System, getting in colleagues all over the country who are jumping at the chance to help us, and you get it done. And you're telling us about it. These guys have passed it buck to buck, but they can't come up with a solution.
No.
It's all bureaucracy, and there's less how much money they're spending. You've not mentioned money, you're just doing it. And that's the important thing. That's what people care about, what you can do to help us.
I will say, and I need to be here on the report, is we get a lot of practice in storm events. We get a lot of practice with disasters and things like that. I led the response to the Taupo snowstorm a few years ago on the Rangitoto Plains as it came over the hill here. We get a lot of practice. There's a lot of lifelines here that don't get as much practice as us, but I know they are working harder than we We're trying to work together, but in unison, got that narrow focus together.
The biggest thing is communication, you're telling us. And frustration and anger comes from lack of communication, and that's what we can get from everybody else. You're telling us, and that's why we're happy with you. That's why we're happy with all your guys on the street, whether they're Wellington Power or Unison. We're applauding them and waving at them because they're doing the job that we want them to do, and they're never practice for us.
I'll take it answer your questions, or I recognise also this is quite lengthy. We've got people here for the remainder of this meeting and even after talk about the individual issues. And when we take your name down, we'll have a person feedback to that.
I have a general question which you can't answer. Just with the residents only signage for the highways, how long will that go for if my property's at risk? And I can't do anything about it because until the government decides whether we're allowed to reside, I can't get anyone to fix my house to secure it. So how long is our community going to have the residents only access so that people essentially don't go and ruin their houses?
So just to clarify, you're saying that the contractors can't get through because it's residents only?
Sorry,
Are you saying the contractors to do the work can't get through?
No, I'm saying that when is the area going to be open to whoever wants to come out and talk for our goods? Because at the moment it's residents only.
It's already happening, so.
No, but how long is it for? That's what I'm saying.
Was you talking about the police cordon? Sorry, I'm just trying to understand.
Well, there's no police cordon, there's just a couple of traffic guys, but it's residents only signage for the highways when you come out to our community from here, you go out there. So how long is that going to be in place? Because we've all got houses, I mean, people that have lost their houses are going to have, unsecured sites, and we all know that people go on rip off building sites. So
Can I answer that? Are you clear?
Yeah.
That's what our meeting was about on Tuesday.
No, I couldn't make it.
Yes,
that's okay.
that's all right.
That's okay. But that's what we're demanding, is that it stays like that and we become more secure. And as Sandra said, already we've got a police presence, but we're on close watch to see what is happening because in 3 weeks' time, the ministers and the police and all of them people have to come back and answer to us to tell us what's happening. So I've been very, very careful right now because I've become a media star. But it's all about it was heartening to see the police. The police are amazing, but I mean, there was a dodgy that came down Woodshall Road today. You know, they're not cordons. They're there just to be a deterrent, if you like. So we're still wanting more, and I'm still demanding the army. So just
I saw one the other day that I'm aware of that's gang related, and she's just looking. She looks great in a fabulous vehicle, but she's looking at the neighbourhood.
So
So a lot of them are getting through. So that's what I'm wondering, because some of us that have an immense amount of damage, we're not even allowed to start.
Just remember, as our community has always done, we just get it done. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So we're working on it, and I won't give up at all.
Just out of isolated houses, that's what I'm wondering.
People, I'd just like to talk about the sticker system and the building consent side of things. So, the lady Claire, she's said she was coming up to see your site. That's pretty important. Is anyone else here tonight that hasn't had a visit from our team, which is Sam and Tony Mananui up here? Tony Mananui in the high-vis top, he's the one organising all the inspections. And we were very fortunate, we had about 21 inspectors come into the area to get most of the area before the rain on that Friday. But we're also getting more and more offers of people to come and help us, and we're going to go into the more isolated areas. And anyone that we have missed, come and see us tonight. We'll write it down and we'll get you actually. And Tony is the one who tells anyone where to go. Okay, so there won't be communication with us.
It was a bit of a worry because when you find out that housing past you will be, but yours hasn't, it's like, what does that mean? You're in my house.
I'll give
It's
you
a
my
bit of a
card.
worry.
I'll give you my card. They can call me, but Tony will ensure that happens. We'll get you pieces and it'll be straight through to the people who do the work.
Can I just jump in there, John? I'm Tony Mananu, the building manager for Hastings, but essentially from next week, and I think it's from Ellis Wallace Road, we're going north from there. So we've done sort of the local area here, but we've still to do up past there, and that's what we're doing early next week.
I'm just trying to get in there before you guys get away, because I'm right down the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We'll follow up, Claire.
And then Sam, stand up, please. So Sam's going to be looking after the recovery, and he'll be running through all of the issues around stickering. So, but before we get into that, there's a few basic things that I say at every meeting now. Number one, you all contact your insurance companies. Yeah. Okay. That's really important. Make sure you do that, obviously. Most of the companies are saying pull out your drapes and curtains. You know, by my driving around the various years, most people have done that. But before you get into pulling off the jib, pulling out all of the insulation and doing all that other stuff, you know, you do need to check. Most insurance companies are great, they don't get on with it. Okay, but make sure you do that as a first thing. Okay. What I'd like to do now is, Sam, are you going to go through the stickering?
Yeah, I can briefly just touch on the stickering and what they actually mean. So in the last sort of week, I've been trying to make contact with a large volume of calls we've had, and people, you all want to know, what does my sticker actually mean? It's on my window, and I've got no idea what it means. Okay, so red and yellow are the main two stickers, and as we touched on earlier, there is a white, but we only did a very small amount. Whites when there's been very minor damage, hasn't gone through the house. So we thought to speed the process up and get to the people that have been really affected, we're just going to stick the red and the yellow. So the red placard is when your home has been structurally damaged. All right. So this is health and safety. So if we turn up and we can see that it's not safe for you as the homeowner or the occupier to be in that building, we're going to put a red sticker on there. All right. You can't be in there. You have to get your insurance company. They need to get their experts in to assess, do up a report, and then you can work through remedial steps from there, whether it's building consent or however they do it, demolish it, whatever they choose to do as the insurance company. All right, so that's from a health and safety perspective as councils. And then the yellow, there's two. There's a Y1 and there's a Y2. So one is restricted access. So that's access to parts of the building only. So if there's an area of your building that has been damaged but the rest of the building is okay to use, or if you have multiple buildings and one of the buildings is off limits because it's been structurally damaged, then it should say on that placard that you cannot use that area. And then there is the Y2, which is you can access it for short term only. So that's allowing you as the homeowner to get in there, to clean everything out. Once you've spoken to your insurance company and they've given you direction that you can strip it out and start doing your remedial works, you can do that. So that's, in a nutshell, what the placards mean. There is information being finalised at the moment that we're going to send out via post, email we're going to use our system. We're going to gather all the email addresses we have from everybody that's affected, and you'll be sent out a placard-specific fact sheet for your property. It'll also be posted on our website, social media pages, and we're looking to get some adverts in the paper as well. So there is information coming with those specific fact sheets. There will also be industry bulletins which give you some idea of how you can rebuild your home as well, because a lot of the work won't require building consent. With our webpage and our social media, that will point you into the direction or link you to the areas where they talk about exempt building work. So that's work that does not require consent. It's the placards.
So you just getting handed out a sheet that talks about the building inspections, and what's really critical is this number here, 068715000, and that's our customer service centre, and those ladies are the ladies and gentlemen that are collecting all the information and giving us a connection point to come and see you. Okay, I've also got my own cards here, and I'm happy to make sure that you've got those so you can ring me directly. Sorry.
Just a message about websites. Great access.
Yeah, we understand that. Yeah, we're sorry. Yeah.
So I think we're going to try and make sure that we get stuff out of paper. Where are you? Okay.
State Highway 5.
Yeah, and John? So I did touch on that. We're looking to get it via post, email, website, social media and newspaper. So we're trying to cover
Flyers.
absolutely all bases.
No.
Yeah.
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 Tired of seeing hearing, we're not getting TV, hello.
Yes.
Tired of hearing access this website, that website,
We hear.
social media.
What was the 0800 number? So you can bring any question. Was it a 0800 number?
Yes, Dan. What's the number, please?
Yep.
What's the number, Dan?
Excuse me, just when we do our assessments, building assessments, we'll have that information with us and some other information in relation to what we can do.
I'll give you my number down the road, so if you stuff that has to be delivered, I'll bring it out.
Dan's going to read it.
Now, coming back to that overall system, what's really important is that we can get connected with you, inspectors can come out and work through the next stages. So probably, I think there'll be questions here about the sticker system, so how about we open the floor to questions about that? And the questions here that people, issues they'd like to talk about.
Right. My house has been registered on years ago. Yeah. The insurance system came yesterday. I've got one that's very good. And he's done a thorough inspection, about 3 or 4 hours. In his opinion, the house is recoverable. And he indicated that they could possibly be in there in 2 to 3 weeks, start to be out. But are we going to still live in the valley?
Yeah, so that's the really tough one. Yeah. There are some people like yourself who said they won't go back there. But what we can do is we can come and see you, look and go through the things that you need to do if you want to stay there. But it's really tough. We don't know, and the mayor and obviously the regional council are saying we don't know if there will be red zones or not. And that's still to be worked through, so I can't say more than that, I'm afraid. But we can come and see you about your particular building matters that need, that need to be worked through, the kind of things that you need to do to get rid of the red sticker or the yellow sticker or whatever.
So if the insurance company gives a go, you'd like to essentially rebuild the house without putting it down. They've still got to wait on the council.
And the government.
Yeah. There's two things. Sam, who's looking after recovery, he'll be able to sit down and go through the things you'll need if you decide to go ahead and build there. But there's still an overall decision, and I believe that hasn't been made yet.
Not by the government, no.
The other thing you might want to ask your insurance company, how much will your premiums be next year before you build there?
That's a good point, because some companies are also going to be saying, hey, we're prepared to pay you out, but they may not reinsure you in the present location. So, but the Insurance Council has been working quite closely, and we're aware of those kinds of issues. So, any more sticker or placard questions? But we're going to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if your house hasn't got any sticker on it at all, but you've got mud sort of about that high inside, it's all twisted. Has there just been an oversight?
Yes, and we're coming to see you.
Okay, mate.
Come and see you straight afterwards, and we'll come out and see your property.
There will be the odd address that we missed for whatever reason, just only not a few, I think. We're still working on all those locations.
We'll take your address tonight. We'll take your address tonight.
Clashing between the local authority, like the City of Hastings District, and the insurer. Like the insurer might say, yeah, he's good to go, whereas the local authority will say, no way. Based on 71 years living in the valley, I've got a pretty good idea of what has happened. And frankly, I think the whole valley has been compromised significantly. Hence, go back to my original comment. I think the only sensible, practical solution going forward, certainly the immediate thing, is to red zone the whole show. That puts everyone in a very uniform position. And I think that is the only way you can go forward. The place can then be cleaned up as one. Trying to clean it up as an individual, we haven't got snowball and health chance. And I think this is where the insurers, the local authorities, Napier City, Hastings District, the regional council, have got to get together pronto.
Yes, I agree. Yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely we do.
I completely disagree with that statement, because it's not just a natural disaster.
So it's a.
Go and see my house, there's 20 metre trees on it.
Okay, so this is about the government. The government will work together with this whole process. So they set the process up about how we look at that. But thank you for your thoughts, sir. And no, we hear you. Thank you. So I think what we're all going to stay now, and where there's a whole team of people. Could they put their hands up, please? Oh.
The whole sewage system has to be replaced. But now that 3 quarters is going to be involved, it's going to take a lot longer.
No, because it's its own supply.
Examples, and therefore, because they've never done it before, and to hold it up, and the kids at the moment are using Scootaloo. And I'm at school helping the kids use Scootaloo.
So the Ministry of Education is looking at the whole system for the whole Eastdale School. So the Ministry of Education, Daniel Murphy, is looking at Eastdale School and making sure you guys can function and open. Some schools haven't been able to open for exactly that reason, about wastewater and safe drinking water, but you've been able to open, but they have to get that whole wastewater.
3 waters now.
No, it's not 3 waters. Nothing.
So because the school is not connected to a council wastewater system, it's got nothing to do with 3 waters. It carries on as a private supply.
Yeah.
But what we are doing at the moment, we're setting up what we call a septage collection point, because we don't want all that wastewater in the Hastings District Council outfall system, because all that silt would block that up. Obviously Napier's wastewater treatment plant's still not working, they're working on that. So we're just setting up a lined area to take all the septage out of all of these septic tanks that are now absolutely chocked with silt, and that has to get trucked quite a way. So we're just setting that up for the wider district to take all that septic. But the school has nothing to do with 3 waters.
So that's quite a related thing. So when you talk about these things, are you talking about the 4 or 5 properties that are Napier? that have got septic tanks on the floor, on the valley floor?
So we're setting up a collection area, and at the moment Napier can't find a place to put it. We're working with Regional Council to see if we can find other suitable ones to make the trucking shorter, because at the moment it's all the way out in Waimarama. But we're creating a collection point where that can all be collected and safely stored and dealt with over time, and that will be for all of the sucker trucks to take heavily silt-laden septic tank septage.
So with your people then, when you've got this all set up, will you find me and say, hey, we're coming to collect your...
No. So we'll work with all of the Davies Waste and all those companies who collect all that up, just to tell them this is how we can deal with heavily silt-laden septage. So we're creating a collection point and then working through from there.
We need to... Well, so let's just take your question up. We'll take that up and follow through, because it's a separate question from the wider group. Everyone's got their own sort of area. So we'll follow up now.
I realise that you need to have time. I appreciate that, but if you could, one, communicate it. I don't do Facebook, so I'm hoping my neighbour got me. But just trying to get a schedule of, yes, we're going to do this, but how are you going to contact me because we can't live in the valley, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, we understand.
Okay.
I totally get it. Let's just follow up when we come down. But I think that...
I've just got one question.
A general question? Yes.
Yeah. I belong to the East River Flood Scheme Committee with Warren here, and for quite a few years in the minutes and in recent years it was brought up about residents, and I brought up as well, residents in the East Valley to be connected to the warning system that's in place, and I don't know where it went to, but it obviously didn't eventuate. I'm just wondering if they're going to do it now. But I'm just saying, like Daniel Gale obviously has a warning system, and I asked can we all get connected to it so we can have that warning as well, and then we can make our own choices.
Sure.
But I'm just curious, more might be able to answer.
That system, Daniel, you can access the regional council's site there, and you can look at any of the hydrological sites. And that's what Daniel does, given his proximity to the river and his interests, with his business there. He saw what was happening from the Perry Road site. He took immediate action.
The regional council man said that the data went down.
Gentlemen, I just talking about he actually has a warning system, he gets notified. So my question to the regional council was that got ignored in our previous meetings. I'm just wondering, are they going to do it now? Are they going to ignore it now?
Let's be very clear that our telemetry, the warning systems that we had in place, will be subject to a major review. We are concerned that that system didn't meet its expectations, that it fell over in certain parts. The question you ask as to the extent of that telemetry, where those warning systems are measured from, that all needs to be completely reviewed, and we need to put in a much higher level of security.
I'm sort of more thinking about why the question got ignored rather than
the question ignored. I can't answer that particular question. I can certainly find out. They're all questions that are arising after the event. What we could have done better. All I do know is that we could have and should have done better, and our objective now is to make sure we don't make those same mistakes again.
Gentlemen, right at the back. I think I did hear that there was only one site that survived the bomb that
Yes.
was down on the hilltop above the house.
You're quite right.
Some of them were just smashed by this event.
Yes.
Right at the back, 3D.
I've got two questions. The first one is not the civil defence run by the regional council?
No, it's not. And the national entity declared the emergency, and at a national level, the emergency is run from the centrally based control. The controller is based there, and then those responsibilities are passed down to
the region's civil defence controller. So it's a system that, my own opinion, is overly top heavy, and we ought to do something there. So, regional council, if you like, administers on behalf of the region the civil defence processes and administration, and our staff are seconded to civil defence to help administer it during these events. So
before the event, the night before, we were a little bit concerned. I'm actually from North Shore Road. We were a little bit concerned with the flow of the river and so on. And I considered, maybe we should get out on one. Just before I went to bed, I read a regional council notification saying that you'd have people on the ground, that you're going to be monitoring the rivers. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call from my son who lives over the back of Carl Drive. The water's at his front doorstep. I raced out there to get him out with a torch they could see. Within 10 minutes it was up past their knees. And so we carried on that through the morning. And at 5:30, the alarm went, the phones went off to say evacuate. Lots of people had actually slept through it, got in their cars and drove down to the end of the street until they found we had no way out. So, and then the next one that you guys put out said the same, that you were going to be monitoring the rivers. So why did no notification come out earlier when you knew up East Valley where you had got people out, evacuated them, but not thought of anybody else further down, knowing that that river was heading our way?
Look, I can't answer that for you. There are questions that keep me awake at night in terms of that process. All I can say is that we know the system didn't work well or well enough. We had significant gaps in our capacity to respond. We lost sight of some of the telemetry that we use. We didn't have a fully joined up system. These issues will come.
In the morning, you knew there was a problem up here at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
people got out of their heads. In Carl Drive, some of them, and the water was already up to their knees. A lot of them could have been drowned.
Look, the deaths are enough to sober everyone up in this process. We have to review this, find out what didn't go well, and so we can make. That's all I can say. I don't know that detail.
So why did you put out the thing the night before?
I literally. I don't know. I can't tell you.
As part of when Quint and I started up this King George thing in the beginning to help our community, one of the things, and I spoke the other night about it, one of the things that we really want to do is document what happened, document what worked well, what didn't work well, and Naples City Council has stood up and said they want to be a part of that, as well as the Hawke Regional Council.
Great.
I'm sure
Great, yeah, brilliant.
As well. But these guys have stood up and said we need to look at what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, and how can we improve so this doesn't happen again with our local knowledge and what happened.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Perfect.
Yep, absolutely, but we can only carry on.
Thanks. Mark, I'll get you to talk directly with Neil, and we've got a contact there, and you can sit down and talk with him, because he's got some issues. Now, just so we get clear, Unison folk here, right, please come and see the Unison folk. Come and see us about the building matters. We've got information here, and then I'd just like to hand back to the Mayor and this gentleman here for the closure and thanking people for coming.
So can I just say thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know we've lost some families who have gone home, but you know this is really, really helpful for you to be able to come out and tell us and us to be able to listen, to make things right and get things sorted. I've got my cards here. I'm really sad to hear some of the stuff that I've heard tonight about not getting the information and not getting the support that you needed when you needed it, and I need to do something about that. We're taking that on board. This has been a 2 weeks in our life, 14 days that we'll never forget, 16 days. But we're all in this together and we want to make it right for you. So people rang me on Saturday night about Alice Wallace Road. We heard about someone tonight being left behind. We need to make sure there's nobody else out there like that. So, you know, this is the information, this is the amazing part of your community hub here, is that we get that intel, we find out what's working, find out what isn't working, and we fix it. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you to the amazing crew that have done such incredible work over the last 2 weeks. And we just want to give you a big round of applause. I'll come and talk to you in a minute. So thank you, everybody.
If you've got any questions directly for us, just come down and grab us. We'll be here for a while, okay?
Thank you, Neil.